Welcome back to the Raw Selection Private Equity Podcast. Joining us today is David Feingold, CEO of Broad Street Global, a private equity firm in the US, predominantly focused on infrastructure, but with a twist, but they're also investing in crypto mining. Let's dive into David's journey. He's going to share with us how he's built the firm, what he's done, and his big focuses currently. David, if you could give us a 60 to 90 second intro to you, please.
Sure, absolutely. My name is David Feingold. I am presently the Chief Executive Officer of a private equity firm known as Broad Street Global. And I have been involved in the private equity space, both from acting as a lawyer and a businessman for probably the last 35 years. And it all starts with my educational upbringing. I attended Emory University in Atlanta, both undergraduate and law school, and was very fortunate early on to get exposed to business when I was identified as the outstanding student in accounting, physics, and mathematics. And because of that, I was fortuitous enough to meet a famous takeover artist named Boone Pickens, who identified me because of my scholastic honors and gave me an internship to work on a project for him. And ever since then, I was hooked in finance. And 35 years later, I sit in a pretty good job, a pretty good firm, and have no complaints.
Thank you very much. What mistakes do you see private equity firms or portfolio companies making, and what would you suggest to correct them?
First and foremost, you can have the greatest business in the world. If you have terrible people, you won't make money. You can have a terrible business with great people, you'll make money. It's all about people. And so early on, when I started in this industry, I was more focused on brain power than just personality, than just overall fitness of a candidate to be a generally good person. And, it's not all about the degree. And so now when we recruit people and when we place people in jobs, we're very tolerant of trying to understand what's that person good at and just utilize them for what they're good at. And it sounds so simple, but the reality is if you just let people be good at what they can do and just recognize things they're not good at, don't assign them to those tasks, it is amazing the difference in results that you can get. And truth be told, at my firm, we have never had a single partner. I've got 55 partners. We've never had a single partner quit the business, which I think in private equity is beyond unusual. And I think it all goes down to making sure the qualified person handles what they're supposed to and the culture. We all vacation together. We all are personal friends together. And it makes a huge difference. There's really no politics in our company, and our compensation structure pretty much reflects that as well. And so it's a great place to work, and I wouldn't work anywhere else, quite frankly.
It's good that you feel that way about your own firm. Absolutely. So that's interesting. So what have you done? Talk to us about some of the mistakes you've made in the past when you've reflected on what you've changed and how you built what you've built now with the hiring the right people, bringing on the right people. What were some of the pain points that made you invest more time, money, and focus into hiring the right people? Obviously, I'm an advocate for that.
Listening. So listening is a quality / a technique that is overspoken about but underutilized. It's really nice. I'm the CEO of a firm, and usually you will find that people will say to you what they think you want to hear instead of what you should hear. And I often will ask people that work in my firm, and the businesses that we own, there's probably about 4,000 people that earn a living off of all the businesses that we own. And I pride myself in listening to people because, look, I'm not on the front lines. We're fifth largest infrastructure developer, a private equity firm in the United States. And there are people that are out there on the job sites all day long, and I show up in my tie and they're there in their t-shirt. And the guy in the t-shirt probably knows a lot more than I do about that particular project. So just listening. I used to have a lot of hair and look a lot better, but now that I've lost my hair and look worse, I've actually gotten smarter and it's just listening. And it's the most important quality that you can have as an executive.
How have you developed that through? Because obviously you've built that within the firm and hired around that. What have you done to put that into your portfolio companies and the 3,800 and whatever it will be difference between your firm and the portfolio companies?
So look, it goes back to the listening theory, but what I do is I have about 20 direct reports, and those reports I try to meet with by Zoom weekly, and just have them report not only what's going on in business line, but what they think should be going on, what they think the future will hold, what they think we should do with regards to decisions that you might expect me to make in terms of finances, in terms of hiring and firing. Because when you treat people with respect and treat them as if they're entrepreneurs of their own individual business lines, they take a lot more pride in the results than if I'm just sitting there telling them what to do and barking orders at them. So, listening plus making sure to be in tune with the businesses is, as you can imagine, with all these different business lines that my company has, it can be overwhelming at times to keep track of everything. And so one of the ways that you do that is you allow those division heads to really act as if they are the boss and that they don't report to anybody else, even though ultimately they report to me. But to allow them to feel like they're only reporting to themselves gives them that confidence to make decisions when they can't get in touch with me and when there are critical, quick decisions that need to be made.
Now, firms, typically a lot of firms that we speak with, a lot of investors that we will move from one private equity firm to another private equity firm get frustrated by the managing partner, owner, founder, whatever title we want to put on, uh, having too much control over everything, being the naysayer, being the ultimate decision maker, everything runs through them. How have you? Well, so I can. Well, it's obvious why you've done what you've done. I'm guessing because that's because how you've grown and scaled. But why have you made that decision to drive empowerment and put the onus onto the obviously your team members, whereas possibly others have kind of tried to keep that level of control, the decision making, and bring it all centrally rather than dispersing it across the team?
I think it's a function of me watching other firms throughout my 35 years being involved in the finance industry and seeing extraordinary turnover. I often speak to people and say, the true test of a private equity firm comes around January or February. Why? Because that's bonus season. The year closes out, people stay for their check, and then you see there's incredible turnover. At my firm, we have bonus season and then no one leaves. And so money's great in private equity, right? It's you get involved in this business because you're highly compensated. But in order to be happy in this business, you have to make sure there's little turnover. And so what we've found at Broad Street Global is that by giving people the ability to not only get highly compensated, but actually have real input into a business, it then leads people to feel like they are professionally fulfilled. Because at the end of the day, one of the worst decisions you can make in life, besides maybe marrying the wrong person, is marrying the wrong occupation. If you have a terrible job and you're not happy, it will not only affect your marriage and your children, but it will affect your outlook on life. And although I'm far from one of these deep thinking Yoda meditative people, I do recognize that peacefulness in your mind with your job goes a long way in creating peacefulness in the rest of your life. And this may sound like psychobabble, but I promise you, if you speak to any of my 55 partners, they will tell you that they look forward to the business. And even at the end of this week, we're taking all 55 partners to a Navy SEAL camp to do Navy SEAL training, and it's option. And every single person said, "I want to go. I wouldn't miss it for the work." And that says a lot to me about how successful our business is in creating a culture where our partners want to be around each other.
Perfect. So, on looking at your platform, your business with Broad Street Global, you've got a lot of what I regard as typical investments, all similarity. There's some differentiating from, but similarity around the infrastructure sector and the projects that you worked on. Then you come across the kind of what looks like a significant outlier of crypto mining. I've never seen that kind of link before. So, what made you choose that as a sector? What's the link, and why are you guys playing in that field when it's kind of looks very dissimilar?
So what happened was our main business is infrastructure development. And basically that means that anything that goes on horizontally, at ground level and below, we do water, sewer, gas, electric, all the utilities, involved in master planned home communities. We do all that stuff. And when crypto, we first started seeing it come to prevalence about 5 years ago, what I recognized was that one of the key components to profitability in crypto happens to be utilities, electricity. And because we do so much infrastructure development, right now we're responsible for somewhere north of 40,000 home sites being developed. So because we're constantly dealing with the utilities and because we negotiate incredibly low cost per kilowatt hour rates, it made sense to me to go look at crypto because besides the cost of the machine, the second biggest cost was energy. And so we had these great relationships. We negotiated these great costs per kilowatt hour. We control thousands of acres of real estate. So we put our real estate with our incredible connections for very um, affordable utility costs. And there you have it. You have the opportunity to make a lot of money in mining. And then we decided to pursue Dogecoin. And this was before Mr. Musk was appointed to the administration to help out. And we've been very lucky in that the coin went from, under 5 cents to, over 40 cents. It's come back in. It's trading like 25 today, I think. But the point is that we were lucky in terms of the timing, but we were opportunistic in terms of the relationships we had from real estate to take advantage of to pursue the business. And we have built what is, I believe, the largest Dogecoin mining operation in North America. So we've accomplished a lot, and that's what we do. We scale, and we see a business we like, and we think there's great margins. There's no reason to do anything but push forward and push forward aggressively. And that's what we did in that industry.
Okay, interesting. So is that something you're looking to continue investment into different types of coins, into further crypto mining, or was that just a kind of a one consideration?
No, I believe that we will continue on. I believe that crypto is here to stay. If you look at the latest arc in the market, which is stable coins, it appears that people are embracing that aspect of crypto. And so we'll go wherever the opportunities are, where we can take advantage of the utility relationships and the land that we have. We're building data centers now. That's something that 3 years ago I would never thought about. But again, we have the land, we have the relationships, we own our own construction company, and there is a dire need for data centers right now. So now we've gotten large into that business. And so the beauty of infrastructure is we have so many skill sets that we do that whenever we find a business that we can take our skills and translate it with our real estate, we'll do it. So, for all I know, I often joke with people, if Musk goes to Mars and there's an opportunity to do infrastructure on Mars, we'll be there with them. We just look where the profit margins are.
Makes sense. So what are you seeing from a predominantly infrastructure investor? Obviously with those links as we mentioned, but what are you seeing as trends in that space? What's well, keep it simple. What's the trends happening in infrastructure?
Well, infrastructure is a tremendous business. The barriers to entry are extraordinarily high. Just like if you and I were talking today and say, "Hey, I'd like to be a brain surgeon." Well, guess what? You've got to go about 12 years of school. You can't do it immediately. So if you wanted to enter the infrastructure business, it would take you years to do it. I've been doing it 35 years, right? So because there's such high barriers to entry, and because there is such a shortage of housing in America, whether it's first-time home buyers or people wanting to rent. There's always a shortage of housing. You just have to be in the market. So right now, we're not in certain markets because logistically, it doesn't make sense for us to send our construction crews there, but we are heavy in North and South Carolina. There is no shortage of demand there. I just opened a website the other day, and it said Greenville, which is where our home office is one of the top places to retire in the United States. And if you look at the absorption rates, which is the number of homes that are being sold and the velocity at which they're being sold, we've got one of the best absorption rates in those markets. So I think that my kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids will all be able to be involved in this business because there does not seem to be any shortage of demand in the Carolinas, and especially because of low taxes, affordability, nice public schools, clean cities. So we're extremely bullish on infrastructure development in our markets that we dominate.
Nice. I like it. So what are your influences, David? What do you watch? What do you read? What do you listen to that you recommend that others should check out?
I every morning am up ridiculously early and am exercising and listening to any podcast which has a topic of interest to me. So I literally subscribe to every possible business podcast that exists. On top of that, I always take about 45 minutes a day to review your standards, the Wall Street journals and Bloomberg and various business journals of markets that we're involved in, and I highly recommend anybody to do that. If you're not educated in your business, in the market, and what's going on in the world, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So I make sure that I spend an awful lot of time doing that. On top of that, I speak to people like you. I'm asked quite often to go give speeches, and when I do that, I have the opportunity to meet people all over the United States, and you'd be amazed at even a 10 or 15-minute meeting with someone you don't know, some of the ideas they have or the questions that they pose that then cause you to think about different businesses. And, a great example is that I met with a number of our investors, and they kept asking us why we didn't have a brokerage opportunity for them. And the question kept being posed over and over and over again. And it became very apparent to me that although a brokerage firm has nothing to do with real estate, in a financial aspect, it actually does. People wanted to know how can they most efficiently deploy their capital into our private equity firm. And if they had their money resident in a brokerage firm that we owned, it would make for an easy transition of their capital. So just not only paying attention to industry trades and irregular news, but also just being out there and speaking to people is the way that you really educate yourself.
Okay. So you've obviously the podcast focus. What in particular are you? I mean, there'll be lots of different things, but what are the challenges that you're trying to overcome? The education you're trying to get from these podcasts that help you with the scaling of the business, whether it be personnel, operations, finance, etc.
All the above. So one of the most important aspects of my job is that I should be able to answer any question to anyone about any issue that relates to my business. And if you're the CEO of a firm and you answer someone with a statement such as "I don't know" or "Let me get back to you," it's a dangerous precedent to set. It's my job to be educated, and in order to educate yourself, I need to know what's going on in politics because a lot of people are very political in America. I need to be educated as to what's going on legally because people are always asking me about, well, what do I think the effects will be of tariffs? That's a big, I get that question all the time now. What, how are tariffs going to affect your business? Or when COVID happened, how does COVID affect your business? So if you aren't staying educated and you can't answer questions, you then lose the faith of your investors, of your lenders, of your counterparties. It has a snowball effect. So a lot of people didn't like school, right? And they didn't like the fact that they had to cram and study for exams. I have to study for an exam every night because the next morning, the next day, people are asking me questions and I need to be able to answer them. So I am constantly in study mode, study phase. And anyone that knows me in the business will tell you, I do nothing but read nonstop in my free time in order to make sure I'm up for the challenge of answering any questions that relate to the business. and geopolitical, legal, financial issues that arise as well.
Perfect. And if somebody wants to reach out to you post this podcast, David, how best do they get in touch with you, please?
Well, we have a website, which I'm sure you'll flash up on your screen at the end. We have a website where you can learn more about our business and what we do. And, we're always happy to speak to people.
Perfect. Well, David, thank you very much for coming on, giving us your insights of scaling, growing your business with Broad Street Global. And thank you very much for coming on the Private Equity Podcast.
It was my pleasure, Alex. Great meeting you.
And as always, thank you very much for all of our listeners tuning in yet again to the Private Equity Podcast. Till the next time, keep smashing it. And thank you very much for listening.